I see it as a supporting role. My job is to allow the coaching staff to focus on being coaching staff, take away some of those administrative duties, and also be that kind of conduit between ownership and the coaching group, and making sure the club is going not just in the right direction in the short term on a week-to-week basis or even season-to-season basis, but what we're doing over a larger kind of 3-4 year period, and how does that fit into the larger plan for the project here. So I think if you look back on my journey so far through soccer, especially in North America, I feel like I've always built. So my first ever role over here was with the University of Virginia, and I was the first ever analyst, like soccer analyst in college soccer. And I went to Houston and was the first analyst there, and I built a analysis department. I went to the Canadian Premier League, and I co-built the football department for a whole league. It was a startup, it was a brand new league. And the same again in my most recent role with Loudoun United in the USL Championship. I was the first ever sporting director for that club. So I think I'm drawn towards kind of clean slate projects where I can go in and build from scratch. I think that suits my personality really well. And what I see here specifically at Fort Wayne is not just the blank slate, but also the opportunity that Mark Music and DeMarcus Beasley presented, which is not just a blank canvas, but also an open-minded approach to, like, there is no preconceived ideas of how to do things here, and you're going to get a ton of support for doing things the right way, and that means an awful lot to me. So really excited about having those opportunities. Yeah, I mean, I think specifically at the League One level, you kind of see that it can be done if you look at the success that Spokane have had in their first year and now in their second year. They're doing really well. I think when you talk about the opportunity that's here in League One, you're not really going against organisations that have been around for 100 years, and I've got so much ground for you to make up that it's almost impossible to win. I mean, obviously there's some really good clubs that have been around for a while in League One. They've got a lot of history, but you also are dealing with organisations with a level of infrastructure that's like quite replicable within 2-3 years. I personally think that the opportunity is there to compete, maybe not from day one, and this is no promises that 2026 we're going to win the league or anything like that, but I don't think the challenges are so insurmountable that you're like, don't even dream of winning anything for the first 10 years. I think we can get there quite quickly. No, you're spot on. I think, and this is something I was personally big on in my previous roles, wherever I've been, but also when I was talking to the leadership here about what is this project, what are we trying to do here? I had this vision of what I was calling Indiana's team. There's obviously an international element to soccer and to a USL roster where there's going to be some international players. There's also a national element to it where if you're going to go out and get the best possible talent available, inevitably some of those may be from the West Coast or the East Coast or down in Texas or wherever. You can't ignore that. But I think there's also a level where there's some great players here already from the local area on the existing roster, and if we want this team to represent the city of Fort Wayne and the state of Indiana, I think definitely in the very long term I'd like a bulk of the roster to be what you'd call homegrown. But even in the immediate, I think there's already some players here that are on the existing roster that we're likely to sign in League One.